If there is one pastime I never tire of, it's rewatching episodes of Thomas the Tank Engine. Not only does it give me that sweet nostalgic feeling, but it's also nice looking back on them and truly appreciating their qualities. Lord knows I'm not the first person to make an analysis video on an episode of the series, but I thought I would share my thoughts on an episode that I think deserves some recognition. As we all know, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends was originally an adaptation of the Railway series books written by Wilbert Awdry and his son Christopher Awdry. As time went on, though, the series began to stray from the source material, for better or for worse. Season 3 is where this change really began, when only half of the episodes were adaptations of Railway series stories, and the other half were stories written by series crew members, or by Andrew Brenner, who would later go on to be Thomas's head writer during the CGI series. Season 4 would very much go back to basics and stay truer to the books, for the most part. Despite this, though, the series would eventually take a turn. Wilbert Awdry sadly passed away in 1997, leaving Christopher with the book series. This, however, meant that the show was no longer forced to adapt strictly Awdry-written material, and so, from Season 5 onwards, the series continued writing all original stories. Many fans will argue that Season 5 was the peak of Thomas's TV career, with stories that were bolder and grander than ever before. It was a season that was not afraid to play with tone in a meaningful way, while also not alienating its audience. Experimental is the word I would use to describe Season 5. With episodes involving violent crashes, explosions, runaways, ghosts, and even a little bit of humor here and there, as well as a pitch-perfect score by composers Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell, it's no surprise that Season 5 had a range that no other season ever had before, or really since. This is one of the reasons why many regard Season 5 as one of, if not the best Thomas season ever produced. Out of all the wonderful episodes from this lineup, the one I want to talk about today is Sir Topham Hatt's Holiday, for I think it is one of the most experimental episodes of the entire series. Fellow Thomas users like The Unlucky Tug or Caleb Train have talked about other episodes like Toby and the Flood or Rusty and the Boulder in the past, and I'm not arguing that these episodes are not experimental, because they definitely are. I just haven't seen too many people talk about this one in particular, and after revisiting it myself, I thought it would be fun to go more in depth and break this episode down and analyze all of its qualities. So sit back, and I'll tell you all about it. Number 1. Humans Exist. As with several other episodes in Season 5, the human characters continue to take center stage. The plot of this episode is that Sir Topham Hatt takes his family on vacation. The weather is fine, and there's no better place to be than the Sodor countryside. However, things just cannot seem to go right for them. On paper, that sounds kind of basic and a little boring, yeah, but yet they crafted a beautifully written and entertaining episode. The fact that humans actually had a prominent role at all in the show's history is a little crazy to me. The human characters were always important to Thomas, and while they may not have always been pushed into the spotlight, they were certainly acknowledged. Contrast this to the later model seasons where you'd be lucky to get even a slight acknowledgement of the driver or fireman in the story, and the only human we'd see on a regular basis was Sir Topham Hatt. Boring. This was the year Topham really blossomed in the series. Before, he was really just the man in charge who either reprimanded or praised the engines. This time around, he takes on a main character role, and quite more is revealed about him. He loves his family, he loves venturing around the island, and he genuinely cares about his engines. There are other episodes that feature the human characters pretty heavily. The best example, I think, is Lady Hatt's birthday party, where the trains appear for less than half the runtime of the episode, which is a little insane to think about. I like to think that if back then they made a spin-off series centered around the human characters, the structure wouldn't be too different from this, with the humans as the mains, and the engines as just the supporting cast. Like any long-running TV series, each era had its good and bad qualities. One thing the classic series did really well was take the characters as written by Awdry and expand upon them. A good example of this would be James becoming proud of his paintwork, or Duck's fascination with the sea. We see that on full display with Topham here. He's depicted as having some humanity. Even after he and his family are dive-bombed by Tiger Moth, he still joins the search party to find him after he goes missing. He is still the same old authority figure, though, rightfully disciplining those who are reckless troublemakers. We learn that Lady Hatt is quite easily bothered and isn't afraid to voice her opinions when she's frustrated. We already knew she was controlling and blunt in Birthday Party, which presented a fun dynamic between the two of them.
"And I'll wear my finest hat just for you," he replied. "Your birthday is a great occasion." "It is, so don't be late."
This time around, Topham is just trying to make sure she has a good day out, even if they run into trouble around every corner. It really shows how dedicated and faithful he is to his family. I think this is further emphasized by the voice performance. Alec Baldwin, as per usual with Season 5, really demonstrates his ability to give these characters each their own unique voice. It just absolutely brings them to life.
"What was that?" cried Sir Topham Hatt.
For this video, I actually went and listened to the UK dub as well, and while I'm used to hearing Baldwin's narration, Michael Angelis I still think gives a nice performance. Personally, I think Baldwin has a little more energy, but Angelis reads the lines so genuinely that I can't possibly say his narration is bad. Both of them really settled into their roles pretty quickly when they were brought on. Stunning performance from both of them. Well done. Number 2. Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. Thomas the Tank Engine is, shockingly, about trains. And while they consistently steal the show in pretty much every episode, trains are not the only mode of transport on Sodor. As in the real world, people get around in all sorts of ways. This episode illustrates that pretty well in my opinion, as it is one of the few that I can think of to feature rail, road, air, and even water vehicles. While it's cool to see props other than trains running past the camera, it also puts into perspective how big and open-ended the universe is. It's not just about the trains. Our off-rail friends are just as unique and interesting. We get some Harold and Tiger Moth action, as well as the canal boat that was previously only seen in the background. Most kids who watch Thomas are going to expect to see trains, so it's nice to know that the show crew didn't restrict themselves while also keeping the appeal of the series intact. This line from Topham pretty much sums up my thoughts on the subject.
It's so nice to be away from the railway for once.
But at the end of the day, the trains will always be constant. The family's boat runs aground and Percy stops by to help. And you get this subtle bit of humor as well. I like the camera movement here. Number 3. Clever writing. In my opinion, if there's one thing that proves the people behind a show really care, it's clever, quality writing. This is infamously the episode where Annie and Clarabelle, who are showing their age, get their makeover. At the beginning of the episode, Lady Hatt voices her disdain for the old coaches, saying that they should be turned into beach huts. Thomas is understandably upset by this remark. His driver reassures him that it won't happen, but he also says,
But I must admit they could be smartened up.
There is some attention drawn to it, but right after we cut to the next day, and the episode seemingly forgets this plot point. The rest of the episode focuses on the crazy adventures Topham and his family go on, with no mention of Thomas, Annie, or Clarabelle. But of course, there is a wonderful resolution. Percy shunts the breakdown train into Tidmouth Halt, and Thomas is there waiting to take the family home, with Annie and Clarabelle looking better than ever. In real life, the props of Annie and Clarabelle had become warped and worn out, being the originals from way back in Season 1. Because of this, they were completely rebuilt in resin for production going forward. They really could have just swapped them out in the middle of the season and not drawn any attention to it. I don't think I would have noticed. But no, they chose to take this change and write a whole story around it. And it's not like this subplot has nothing to do with the episode, because it's set up earlier. The first sign of trouble for the family is Lady Hatt complaining about how old Annie and Clarabelle are, which is why Topham chooses to use Percy the very next day. There was a reason for this change. The transformation is so drastic that Lady Hatt doesn't even recognize them. The episode ends with this endearing scene of Annie and Clarabelle with Thomas, where they confide in their friend for validation. Annie and Clarabelle hardly get any focus in the model series. They were kind of just the two NPCs that Thomas took everywhere. They got even less attention in the Hit era. I think the worst offense was the Nitrogen era, where Annie and Clarabelle didn't speak at all, despite now being animated, just so a plot could occur. This is why I and many others were so glad they brought them back into the spotlight for Blue Mountain Mystery. This is how you use CGI to your advantage, by allowing previously minor characters to take on a more prominent role. That's exactly what they did with Cranky. Before, he was just a prop of random dogs who would occasionally get a line in once or twice a season. But once the series went full CGI, Cranky was able to break out more as a character. The friendship between Thomas, Annie, and Clarabelle was something that slowly died away as the model series continued. So it's nice that we have this one episode that, while not entirely about them, shows their dynamic in a wholesome, meaningful way.
It's very nice to get compliments, but no matter what we look like, we'll always be useful, won't we, Thomas? Of course, their friend replied.
I think many people will agree with me when I say the biggest issue with the Thomas brand nowadays is that the core appeal of the show has been lost. Mattel has shown over the last few years that they do not understand or care about what made Thomas so special. Thomas is not special anymore because it's trying to be like every other kid show instead of being unique like it once was. This 80-year-long franchise, in my opinion, deserves so much more. I'm not trying to hate on people who like All Engines Go. Feel free to like whatever you like. All I'm saying is that it's just not what Thomas is supposed to be, in my opinion. There is no longer a thematic purpose for the characters being trains anymore because now they can do anything or go anywhere they want whenever they want. Classic Thomas was so timeless because it was about talking trains that were portrayed like real ones. Kids could like it because the trains and other vehicles could talk, while the same kid years later could still watch it and appreciate the good storytelling and model work put into it. It successfully rode that line. Modern day Thomas has lost that quality, sadly, and that's why I wanted to make this video. Back then, the showrunners knew how to be experimental without being detrimental. They took what was already there and just expanded upon it. They didn't restrict themselves while also still abiding by the rules of the universe. And I think many will agree with me when I say we need that quality now more than ever. According to testimonies from producer Ian McHugh, Mattel has big plans for the 80th anniversary of the franchise this year, and I sincerely hope that they honor the series in a meaningful way. The new merchandise they've revealed recently looks pretty amazing in my opinion. Above all else, I just want Thomas to be able to appeal to anyone like it used to. The good qualities it once had are the reason why I still invest time in this series today, and I think that speaks volumes about how good things used to be. Thanks for watching.